Good morning and welcome to the Middle School Early Show. Today, our topic is poverty. Poverty can be defined as having a significantly less amount of income and wealth than other members of the society. For example, a family of four living with $20,000 a year or less would be considered poor. Today, 25% of the children make up the U.S. population and 35% of children make up the poor population. Students in poverty are not just affected at home, but also in their school life. Today we have a panel here to discuss that aspect. After this break, we'll be back with our panel. And we're back with our panel of experts. We have Denise DeDecker, a teacher at Valley Middle School. We have Ashley Ubik, the principal at Valley Middle School, and Jacob Wiedemann, the social worker at Valley Middle School. I'd like to start out and ask, how does poverty affect adolescent learning?
Well, adolescent learning has a lot to do with this idea of a cognitive Velcro, which is to learn, students have to apply what they already know to this new information so that it can connect it in their brain for the cognitive Velcro. One problem I hear from teachers all the time is that, I'm talking to these students and it's like information's going in one ear and out the other, and they're really frustrated and they feel like the kids aren't motivated. That's not true. It is going in one ear and out the other because they can't connect what they're learning to something that they already know. And the issue comes in when they don't have the home life that everyone else does. We learn a lot of what we know from the dinner table, and we have conversations with adults about what they expect, how to solve problems. And kids in poverty just don't have that. Their parents are working two jobs, they're not home, and they're not there to have these conversations with their children.
Yeah, even just going off of that, a lot of the students that I work with individually, what ends up happening with a lot of them is they end up moving around a lot. So they can't really build the connections that a lot of other students do. Say if you live in a community for a good 5, 6, 7 years, you can build friendships, you can connect to the teachers, you can connect to the other people in the community, and you can feel like you're involved within the community and you're involved in your learning. These students, oftentimes their parents are moving from town to town, place to place, trying to find some kind of job that will sustain just the meager lifestyle that they have. So what happens is these students never really feel connected. So what happens is they don't really feel motivated to learn. They don't want to learn because if they're just going to be moving again, why do they even need to try?
Another thing to go along with what they both said, one thing that for the teacher, it's important to know this because you can't expect the same from all students. Like what he said, how they're unmotivated to learn. Sometimes it's not always in their control. Sometimes it's their parents' value on education. So that's important to know that too as a teacher.
Does their lack of motivation affect their schoolwork, or does it carry on to school?
Oh, very much so. These students, they feel very helpless. They don't have any control of their situation. They didn't choose to be born into poverty. They didn't choose to have the parents that they have. They didn't choose to be in the situation that they're in. They don't choose to move. It's always the parents' decision. So they have no control over their life, over what's going on, and so they feel like they're learning also. They have no control over that either, and they just kind of want to just move out of that.
Another thing, their environment definitely affects them a lot. They see the people around them, and most people in poverty sometimes don't have jobs or the best living conditions, and they see that, and then they see their friends who might be doing something illegal and making money, and they see that, and then they want to do that. So it's important to put a value on education because, like Ashley said too, at the dinner table, they may not sit down with their family, and so their family won't emphasize how important education is to better their lives.
It really is a vicious cycle that, us as schools, we do a lot to try and help it, but it really is a vicious cycle that you can get caught into.
How do you see their behavior being affected at school?
Well, it's a very emotionally traumatizing. Just the fact of living in poverty in itself can be emotionally traumatizing. So they're not emotionally developed like a lot of other students are, and since they're very fragile already, their behavior. Basically, what happens a lot of times they take criticism a lot more negatively than any other students. You could be given the most positive criticism, just criticize a small part of their schoolwork, a small part of what they're doing, and they will just shut down. They don't want to learn anymore because they just can't take the emotional trauma. Even something as small as just being like, oh, you didn't do this right. That might to some students that might be enough to just set them off and completely just shut down.
Yeah. Your classroom needs to be as safe and as possible for them to feel comfortable to learn and have questions and get things wrong because Thika was saying, if they feel at any time that you're attacking them, they just completely shut down, and that's the end.
A stressor, any kind of stressor, is going to be especially more harmful on a vulnerable group. And adolescents are such a vulnerable group. They have so many things changing. They're going from elementary to high school. They're worrying about their home. And the whole aspect of poverty that a lot of people have no idea how poor some of these kids are, that they don't even know what's going on at home.
All right. Well, when we come back, we'll talk about strategies to help the kids in poverty. And we're back, and I'd like to talk about some teaching strategies you see in your school.
Well, one of the things I tell all my teachers in my school is the idea of expectations. We all know, not even for poverty students, that if you set high expectations, you're going to get better results. There's a famous study done in the 1960s by Robert Rosenthal and Lenore Jacobson. And they pulled a random group, this group of students, and a random group of teachers, and they told the teachers that the group that they selected of these students were great students, above average IQs, and that you are a very great teacher, so you're going to be gifted with these students and you're going to have them for a year. Well, neither the teacher nor the students had any special qualifications. So they let them teach this way the whole year, and they compared the results of the IQs of these students compared with students who were just in a normal classroom. And these students performed so much better on all their test scores because of the expectations that these teachers had. They thought they're the smart students, they're going to be the ones with the better grades, so they teach better. So it's easy for a lot of teachers to fall into this category where they feel like the poor child is not going to be able to learn, he can't learn, she can't learn. So, if she does that, that's good enough. But that isn't good enough. They can learn. It's just the part of the teachers to put that extra effort into their learning.
Also, sorry to interrupt you, but like a lot of people don't know, these students want to be challenged. They want high expectations. They need them. The Education Trust did a research in the late 90s where they interviewed a bunch of students, they interviewed a bunch of teachers, and one of the most telling things is one of the students told the interviewee, he goes, what hurts us most is that you teach us less. Just because a lot of teachers go in there, a lot of people, like adults, just go in there thinking, oh, they're hurt, they're in poverty, they don't have as much, so therefore they can't learn as much. And so they set the bar a lot lower, and the students want to be challenged.
I would say also, like in my classroom, I know that we have high expectations, even though every expectation isn't the same for every single student. But what their expectations are high for them, even though in some cases it may be low for another student. In that student's case, it's high for them. And another thing we do to help them is just